Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Right, so let's continue from where we left off. So he says, وتضم قيمة العروض إلى الذهب والفضة حتى يتم أو يتم النصاب. So this is now continuing with the discussion of the urud of tijara. So basically business stock. And we mentioned before, if you remember, we mentioned about the if the business stock is something which is obviously non-gold and silver, then how do you deal with it? So in that case, it all based upon the intention. So if you bought it with the intention of trade, then it's considered to be in the ruling of gold and silver, right? So which one do you use in this case, right? So he says the asal is that you use it for silver. Silver is the asal that you use it for, and you basically try to see which one is going to be more beneficial for the fuqara. Yeah, so يقومها بما هو أنفع للفقراء. And we said, there's a riwayah from Abu Hanifa rahimahullah that says that you actually give a choice to the person of whichever two they want to choose, right, gold or silver. And according to Abu Yusuf rahimahullah, you measure it or you evaluate it according to whatever metal you bought it for. So if you bought it for gold, then you're going to use the gold nisab. If you bought the goods for silver or use silver, then you're going to use the silver nisab. And if you're in a place where, or you didn't buy it for gold and silver, then you're going to use the ghalib, the predominant currency of that country. So it's gold, silver. Imam Muhammad rahimahullah says, in all cases, you're always going to use the silver. Right? So silver is always going to be the case. And then finally, we discussed the masala of what does it mean to have the year, right? So the passing of the year. We discussed what it means to have a 12-month lunar year. Now, just on a side note, a 12-month lunar year, this is obviously, based upon the lunar calendar. However, in today's modern times, a lot of businesses, they find it difficult to work out their exact zakat, business zakat, based upon the lunar calendar, right? So they find it very hard to do that. So what they do is, according to the IOFI, so IOFI is like this international board of scholars that deals with financial matters. And they've also got a website as well. So you can check them out as well. And they say that you can actually use the solar calendar, but you will have to adjust your zakat from 2.5% to 2.7. I think it's about 2.75%, something like that. So basically what they do is they take into consideration the 11 extra days of the year. So I can't remember exactly what figure was. It's more than 2.5%. Is it 2.7% or maybe it's less than that? I can't remember the exact figure. I'll have to check that up again. But they basically say they take into consideration the 10 extra days. So every lunar calendar decreases from a solar calendar by 11 days. So if you add the extra 11 days, you take that into consideration, and then, instead of giving 2.5%, you're going to give slightly more of your amount. So this is only for ihtiyat purposes, because a lot of these businesses find it difficult to work out their accounts according to the lunar calendar. They can do it on a solar calendar basis. So that's one, using the lunar calendar for this. Okay, another issue with regards to the business trade is that if you have obviously business stock, can you give your stock? So you have stock. Can you give zakat in the form of your stock, right? So let's say you're a clothes seller and you have clothes and you want to give zakat in the form of the cloth, or you sell, let's say, mobile phones and you want to give. So it would be permissible. Technically, it would be permissible to give 2.5% of that, because that's the asal, that is, you're giving the item itself, and the value is obviously the secondary for this issue. So this is when it comes to a business stock. So you're allowed to give like goods. And I remember, like in Pakistan, when we were studying in Pakistan, there were a lot of students that would study with us that were poor. And what would happen is these big businesses would come and they would give zakat in the form of goods. And once I remember what happened was we came to our rooms and they were distributing dry milk. So there must have been some milk factory. The owner was giving his zakat. So he gave it in the form of dry milk. and like all these students had these dry milk packages. So someone gave one to me and I said, what is it for? They said, oh, it's zakat. And I said, I can't take zakat. So the other guy said, I'll take it. So he was eligible for zakat, so I gave it to him. And so that was the first time I actually saw this. And sometimes like big cloth businesses, merchants would come and they would deliver like a whole load of cloth, right? Unmade cloth or unsewn cloth. They would deliver that, and then that would be distributed amongst the students who were eligible of zakat. And so one of the things I remember was that milk, actually, a strange thing was the next day everyone had a bad stomach who drank that milk. So I think what happened was that business, they must have taken the low quality wealth, the low quality goods that they had, and they must have thought, you know what, we can't sell this stuff, so we'll just give it in zakat. So you see, that's the problem now. So when you have a business and people are going to try to give the worst quality business stock they have, or the goods they're trying to get rid of, right? They're trying to give that into zakat as well. So this is the only problem with this kind of matter. Is it accepted by all scholars? Because how can they change something so fundamental as the lunar calendar year to solar calendar, as every 30 years a whole year would be skipped? So basically, so that's why they take into consideration the extra 11 days. Yeah, so remember, a solar calendar, so you're not really kind of ignoring a year. You'd only ignore a year is if obviously you shifted from a solar calendar to a lunar calendar. Yeah, so you are still taking into consideration the year. So it's basically, you're using the 360 days of the year, right? So, or 350, 55 days of the year. Yeah, you're using that. But all you're doing is you're adding 11 extra days. So you're actually compensating for those 11 days. But it's 10 days late each year. Yeah, so it's not 10 days late each year from a solar calendar point of view. It's just like, for example, let's say your zakat was on the 1st of Ramadan. Every 1st of Ramadan is your zakat. And then the next year, you'd always expect it to be on the 1st. But because it's too difficult for you to work out, the businesses, like I've worked with some of these people who own businesses to work out the zakat, and it's extremely hard to work out the zakat on the 1st of Ramadan, let's say, because they don't have access to all their accounts. They can only get access on certain days. So this is why, they either just guess how much zakat they have to give on the 1st of Ramadan, and they can't do that correctly. So this is why it's the lesser of the two evils. So in other words, what they'll do is they'll add the extra 11 days, and they'll consider that day, that solar day, so every year on that solar day. So even though the days are shifting, so let's say, for example, next year, so the 1st of Ramadan, let's say the 1st of Ramadan and the 1st of January coincide. The next year, the 1st of Ramadan is going to be on the 20th of December, and the 1st of January is going to still be the 1st. And then the next year, it's going to be, so what's happening basically is that they take into consideration the extra sort of like shift. That's all they're doing in there as well. So in other words, in both situations, there's going to be a problem, because in the first situation, they cannot give an accurate evaluation of their assets. And in the second situation, obviously, they're not going to be accurate on the day that they're giving. That's why the IOFI has come out with this solution for them. Does that make sense? So they're not going to be missing a year. They are going to be taking into consideration. So the first year, they're going to take into consideration those 10 days. And then in the next year, they're going to take into consideration those other extra days. So it's like they're shifting the days. So over the years, the date working in Nisab is very different. The date of working, yes. So that's the problem, because they literally cannot work out the days according to the lunar calendar on that specific date. Because in the UK, for example, the gap gets greater. So that's why they're compensating. So for that 1 year, they will compensate for that 1 year. And then the next year, they'll have to compensate for the extra days. So for that first year, they're going to have to compensate for 10 days. And then, so the next year comes, is going to be obviously 11 days. And the next year is going to be 11 more days. So there's going to be that compensation that they're going to have to work with. Yeah. So it's not that every single year they're just going to use that 2.57 or whatever it works out to be, 2.57%. It's that every year that goes by, they're going to have to compensate for those years for that. Otherwise, like we said, it's going to be, too difficult for them to work it out on that. So this is according to the IOFI. And remember, IOFI is a board that has been headed by like Mufti Taqi Usmani. These kind of people are in that board, right? So this is why they take into consideration the position of other madhabs as well on this matter. Yeah, so taking into consideration other madhabs is also considered, as it's a matter that affects everyone. So it's not just a matter that affects people of the Hanafi school, it's something that affects everyone. Anyway, so that's one of the things that they mention. All right. Okay, another issue with regards to business stock, like this is another problematic issue that business stock has, is if you have like shares in a business, the shares in a business are considered to be also business stock, depending on if they have liquid assets, if they have cash, and if they also have business stock, right? So liquid assets, cash, and business stock. So if you've got shares in a company, how are you going to work out your zakat of what you have? So you either are going to work it out according to like the calculation. So you're going to have to work out, ask the company, you're going to say to them, how much liquid stock do you have? How much liquid asset do you have? How much cash do you have, basically? And then how much business stock do you have? So depending on how much ownership of the business you have. So let's say you own 1% of the business. So that means you have to work out how much cash they have. If they've got £10,000 in cash, and how much stock they've got. So they've got, I don't know, let's say £10,000 of stock. So they've got 10,000 cash, 10,000 stock, that's 20,000. So you own 1% of that. Yeah, so you own 1% of that. So that 1% that you own, which is going to be, 1% of, it's going to be £200. Yeah, £200 that you own of 20,000. So that £200 now, you're going to add that to your zakat assets, and you're going to calculate 2.5% of that, right? Or if you just want to do directly from the business stock, you're simply going to have £20,000, work out 1% of that, which is £200, and then 2.5% of that. Yeah, so 2.5% of £200, which works out to be £5. Yeah, so your zakat of 20,000 is going to be £5. Yeah, because that's how much share you own. Now that's a very simple way of calculating it. But if you had, for example, like shares in a big company, which you're not really going to be able to find out the liquid assets and the stock because it's just too complex. Yes, it's too difficult. Like the FTSE 100. So some of the scholars like Mufti Faraz Adam and others, they have actually gone through the FTSE 100 and they came out with a rule which was that none of these businesses have, first of all, most of these businesses out of the FTSE 100, I think 66 of them, they were saying, are haram. Like their income is haram. So therefore, if the income is haram, predominantly haram, like interest-based or hedge funds or something like that, then having obviously shares in that company is non-compliant, non-Sharia compliant. So you're not supposed to. But let's say, for example, there are some Sharia compliant ones. Then they came out with this figure of 25%. So they said the maximum that we found, they used to say 40%, and then they changed the figure when they did the accurate survey of these companies. They found out that the maximum, and that's like a really generous number, 25% of, maximum is going to be zakatable assets. So what they basically do is they actually find out from that. So let's say, for example, you have 1% share in a business, right? So the company is worth £1 million and you got 1% share in that. How much of that £1 million is zakatable? All you have to do is just work out 25% of a million. Yeah, so 25% of a million is 250,000. And then from that 250,000, you work out your 1%. Yeah, so 250,000, 1% of 250,000 would be, 2,500. Yeah, 2,500. So therefore, you just have to give zakat on 2,500, 2.5% of 2,500. Right, that's how they worked it out. So they said this is a very generous number because hardly any of these companies have, like some of these companies will have only 1% zakatable assets. Some will have 2, some will have 3. So this is a very generous number, 25%. How can you find their list of halal one? I don't think they've put the list up, but this was just, I spoke to Mufti Faraz Adam and he mentioned this to me that they've worked it out like this. Yeah, so I don't think they've put the figures up anyway. I'm not sure. I'll try to ask him again about this, but this is what he told me anyway. This is how they figured it out. So again, see, the scholars having to come out with like a fatwa for modern problems. This is also something that scholars have to train themselves in as well, right? So sometimes the orthodox position in the books is one thing, but on a business level, it's too difficult to be able to implement that position, right? So you have to go for like an adjustment to suit the businesses. Yeah. So like I said to you, the adjustment of the solar calendar for the lunar calendar, and likewise this 25% of using the FTSE 100, and for that matter, anything else out there as well. Yeah, like people who have business stocks in companies that are outside the FTSE 100, because FTSE 100 is just 100 companies. Besides that, there's loads of other companies out there that are not on the FTSE 100. Okay, so قال وتضم قيمة العروض إلى الذهب حتى يتم النصاب. So تضم قيمة العروض إلى الذهب والفضة. So basically, if you have business stock, then and that business stock is not at the level of nisab, right? So you say, for example, you got business stock that is worth £100 only. What you do is, if you've got silver, then you add the silver that you've got to the business stock to try and complete the nisab. So if you've got £100 worth of silver, and you've got £100 worth of business stock, add it together, right? It works out to be £200. And is £200 nisab? No, so then no. But then if you got, let's say, £300 worth of business stock and £100 worth of silver, put that together, it makes 400. That sounds like nisab. Then you got to give zakat. And the same goes for gold as well, right? So حتى يتم النصاب, until the nisab is complete. So the idea here basically is that when you have different nisabs, like camels and goats and all that, these different nisabs are not meant to be added together because they are totally different in genus. The genus is totally different. So you keep them separate. However, gold and silver, they are considered to be shared. They share the same, like overarching principle, which is currency. These are both used in currency. So because they are both using currency, you add them together. Yeah, so they're considered to be added together. However, when it comes to like you got gold, let's say for example you've got £1,000 worth of gold, but you got camels. You don't add the camels together. You don't say, oh, the camel is worth, I don't know, £100,000 camel. One camel is worth £100,000. It's for argument's sake, let's say, very expensive camel. You don't say, oh, look, if you add them together, 100,000 plus 1,000 equals 101,000. No, you don't add them together. But in silver and gold, you do that, which we're going to talk about next. And the same is with business. So business stock is considered to be in the ruling of gold and silver, because these are things that are used for like trade, thamaniya. لأن الوجوب, says, because the obligation in all of these three things في الكل باعتبار التجارة, yeah, is with regards to trade. وإن افترقت جهة الأعداد وإعداد, even though the aspect of i'dad is considered to be different in each one, meaning gold and silver are naturally mu'addun للنماء. So gold and silver are naturally being created for productivity, nama, right, growth by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And business stock, on the other hand, has been prepared for, has been reserved for nama, productivity, by the humans. Humans are the ones with their intention make it into a business stock. Okay, so this is something that we mentioned last week as well, if you remember. Okay, next. وَيُضَمُّ الذَّهَبُ إِلَى الْفِضَّةِ. Now, what if you only have gold and silver? Yeah, so you've only got gold and silver. What happens in this? Yeah, so I've got gold and I've got silver. So there's three scenarios that you can have in gold and silver. Either the gold and silver is going to be both above the nisab. Yeah, so let's say, for example, gold is 20 mithqal of gold, 87.45 grams of gold, and the silver is above the nisab, 200 dirhams of silver, yeah, which is 613.35. Yeah, you got that. That's one scenario. Yeah, so gold is above the nisab, silver above the nisab. Number two, the second scenario is the gold and silver are not above the nisab, right? They are both below the nisab. Okay. And number 3 is that the gold or silver, one of the two is above the nisab. Yeah, one is above the nisab, one is not above the nisab. So in this situation, if you have gold and silver that are both above the nisab, yeah, if you have gold and silver that are both above the nisab, then what you do is that you treat both of them as separate entities, separate nisabs. Yeah, so the rule is, the asl is that when the gold and silver are both above the nisab, then zakat is given according to their weight, right? Separately. If, however, number 2, if the gold and silver are below the nisab, this is what it's talking about. You try and work out how you can add them together to reach one of the two nisabs. Yeah, so you add the silver to the gold, or the gold to the silver, to reach one of the two nisabs. How do you do this? This is where there's an ikhtilaf between Imam Abu Hanifa and between the Sahibain. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah has mentioned that what you do is that you add them both together according to their value. So you work out the value of gold according to silver and the value of silver according to gold. And then you add them together, and as long as you reach one of the two nisabs, you got to give zakat. So he says you work out value, right? So if you've got, let's say, gold coins, silver coins, you work out the value of the gold coins in silver, you convert into silver, how much it would be worth in silver, and then you add it to the silver. If it reaches nisab, you got to give zakat, or vice versa. And according to the Sahibain, they say no, you add according to percentage, amount. So in other words, if the gold is half of its nisab and the silver is according to half of its nisab, half and a half put together, it makes a whole. So therefore, that's considered to be zakatable, right? You got to give zakat, irrespective of its values. You don't look at the values. You just look at, so for example, you got 90% silver nisab, but you got 10% gold nisab. So you put that together and it makes 100%. Or you've got 40% gold and 60% silver. 40 plus 60 makes a whole, like that. So they say you look at portion-wise amount, and so the Imam Hanifa rahimahullah says you look at qima-wise. Yeah, so qima, this is how they look. As for the third scenario, they don't really discuss the third scenario, right? So we're not going to talk about the third scenario here. It's just the first two scenarios that we're talking about. How do you translate jihatul i'dad? So jiha means by way of reservation, it being reserved. A'adda yu'iddu, it's been reserved. Yeah, so in iftaraqat jihatul, the way of how it's been reserved. So gold and silver have been reserved naturally as productive wealth by Allah, and business stock has been reserved as zakatable asset or nama by humans. Okay, so وَيُضَمُّ الذَّهَبُ إِلَى الْفِضَّةِ. So dhahab is going to be added to fidda لِلْمُجَانَسَةِ. Why is that for? Why don't we treat it like camels and goats, where if you have, let's say, for example, 20 camels, or so 20 goats, which is half of the nisab, and let's say you have 4 camels, you don't add them together. You don't do like this combination, but you do it in gold and silver. He says because gold and silver, they share the same genus, min haythu thamaniya, with regards to currency. Both are considered to be currency. They come under the banner of currency. وَمِنْ هَذَا الْوَجْهِ, and from this perspective, صَارَ سَبَبًا. Yeah, so now it's actually become a sabab, a cause for them to be added together. Right, so this is why they say that camels and goats and all of these, their nama is basically for progeny and all that, but each one is considered a different genus in itself. So camels are different, so we can't add them together. Adding together doesn't work out. Whereas in gold and silver, you can add it together even though they are two different genuses, in the sense that, when you have, like in the Kitab al-Sarf, in Buyu, in Kitab al-Sarf, right? If you ever have gold and silver in a sale, so one side someone's giving gold and one side someone's giving silver, you consider them to be two different genus. So when they are considered to be in bayt, they are considered to be two different genus. But when they are considered in zakat, they're considered to be the same genus with regards to thamaniya. Right? So that's what you have to understand, the difference between the two. Right? So gold and silver in trade, in sarf, are considered to be opposite genus in regards to like what they are. So gold is obviously, gold, it's a metal. Silver is a metal, two different metals. But when it comes to zakat, the genus is looked at with regards to its thamaniya, it being something, a currency used in society, right? So they consider the same. Okay, so he says, now we want to look at this idea of how do you add it together? So يضم بالقيمة عند أبي حنيفة. So according to Imam Hanifa, you add the values together, right? So value becomes important. Now, remember I told you three scenarios. The first scenario was that both gold and silver have reached the nisab. Over there, you don't add the values together, right? You don't add the values together. What you do over there is you just look at the weight, because the asal, the nas, the mansus alayhi is the wazn when it comes to gold and silver. But we shift towards the qima when we're trying to figure out how to, how to bring them together, because this is more anfa' lil fuqara. This is more beneficial for the fuqara. So he says, يضم, you add the qima according to Imam Abu Hanifa, وعندهما بالأجزاء, with regards to portion or amount. وهو رواية عنه, and this is also one riwayah of Abu Hanifa. In other words, Imam Abu Hanifa has, his official position is the qima, and the other position is the ajza. So you look at the ajza, okay? So in other words, ajza, like I told you, if on one side you have 50%, on the other side 50%, you add them together. But if on one side you have 20%, on the other side you only have 60%, 20 plus 60 equals 80, it doesn't make a nisab. Okay, then he says, so حتى إن من كان له 100 dirham. So much so that, let's say there's a person who has 100 dirhams, 100 silver coins, which is obviously half of the nisab, and khamsatu mathaqil, and someone has 5 mithqals, right, which is a quarter of the nisab of gold. So half, 50% plus 25% equals 75%. Yeah, and that's according to Sahibain. There's no zakat there. Yeah, simply because the portions don't add up. But according to Imam Hanifa, he says you look at the value of each one. What's the value of 100 silver coins? What's the value of 5 gold coins? Yeah, خمسة مثاقيل ذهب. So he says, من كان له 100 درهم وخمسة مثاقيل ذهب. So 5 mithqals of ذهب. تبلغ قيمتها 100 درهم. Yeah, whose value reaches, meaning the value of the 5 coins, تبلغ قيمتها 100 درهم. So if you look at value-wise, now there's two ways that we can evaluate this. We can actually convert the value of the gold to silver, so add silver to silver, or we can convert the value of silver to gold and add gold to gold, right? So in this case, 100 silver coins, let's convert the gold coins into silver. It works out to be 100 silver coins. So 100 silver coins plus 100 silver coins, so the values put together equals 200 silver coins, which is nisab. You have to give zakat. Alright, so in other words, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he is looking at whichever one you can add, because this is anfa' lil fuqara. This is more beneficial for the fuqara. Yeah, because more people then are going to end up having to give zakat, which is a good thing. That's what his argument is. Now, if you were to work out the gold, let's say you converted the gold into silver into gold. So let's say 200 silver coins. If 5 gold coins equals 100 silver coins, that means 100 silver coins equals 5, isn't it? 5 gold coins. So 5 gold coins plus 5 gold coins equals 10 gold coins. So if you were to convert it into gold, the nisab of the gold wouldn't be complete. That's why, you look at whichever one it reaches first. Do you understand that? So he says, فَعَلَيْهِ الزَّكَاةُ. So therefore zakat is going to be necessary upon him, indahu, according to Imam Hanifa, خِلَافًا لَهُمَا, as opposed to Sahibain. Right? Because Sahibain, remember their argument was, you look at the ajza. هُمَا يَقُولَانِ. Okay, so what's their reasoning? Why do they say that you have to look at the ajza? They say, هُمَا يَقُولَانِ الْمُعْتَبَرُ فِيهِمَا الْقَدَرُ دُونَ الْقِيمَةِ. So what's considered is actually measurement, not value. In other words, they're saying the lawgiver, whenever they've told us about the nisabs, they've always told us about amount, right? It's like 5 camels, 40 goats, 30 cows, 200 silver coins, like a number, specific number, yeah, and gold. They don't talk about qima. Qima is not mentioned there. So why is it that you're shifting towards qima? That's the argument. Why is it that you shift towards qima? حتى, so much so, لا تجب الزكاة في مسوغ. So their argument is, look, so much so that zakat is not necessary when it comes to designed gold. So gold that is masugh means it's been melted down and made into jewelry. وزنه أقل من 200 وقيمته فوقها. So they say, for example, let's say someone has a necklace, a lady has a necklace that's made from gold, and if you weigh it, the weight of that gold is less than 20 mithqal. Let's say it only works at 10 mithqal. But the value of the gold is actually more than the value of 20 mithqal of gold. So let's say the value of 20 mithqal of gold in today's rate, let's say, is £4,000. So this necklace is worth £10,000, let's say, £10,000 necklace. So over there, the Hanafis don't consider zakat on the 10,000. They only consider zakat when the gold necklace, its weight reaches the 87.45 grams of gold. Right? That's only when they consider it. So he said the argument is, look, if qima was considered to be valid, looking at qima was valid, then you would have considered the qima when it comes to designer gold, right? Designer jewelry. Yeah. So he says, حتى لا تجب الزكاة, so much so that zakat is not necessary في مسوغ, yeah, in designed gold or shaped gold. وزنه, that weighs أقل من 200. This is obviously talking about silver, which is less than 200 وقيمته فوقها, but its value is more. So I told you gold, and you can do the same with silver as well. Okay, so what's the response to this? وهو يقول, Imam Hanifa's argument says, إن الضم للمجانسة. The reason why that we've added them together is because it's genus, as in both of these two things follow the same genus in this chapter, okay, in zakat, not in sarf. In sarf, the jins is different, right? Because we know that the Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited the selling of gold for gold unless they are equal amounts. But he allowed the selling of gold for silver in different amounts, right? So over there it was allowed. وهو يتحقق باعتبار القيمة دون الصورة. And he's saying mujanasa. So when you're looking at genus can only be seen in value duna surah, not in form. Yeah, so in other words, you can only be precise in genus because two things are very different. Therefore, you can't use the measurement that's used for gold. You can't use it for silver. Yeah, so the measurement doesn't really work because they're two different things. But the common denominator between two different measures is value. Like it's a shared common denominator. Yeah, that's the mujanasa, it's in the qima. So he says, وَهُوَ يَتَحَقَّقْ بِاعْتِبَارِ الْقِيمَةِ, and this is found with regards to the value دون الصورة, and not in the form of it. فَيُضَمُّ بِهَا. So that's why, you're going to add the qima to the qima because it's more accurate, it's more precise in this. Wallahu a'lam. Allah knows best. Okay, so now what I want to do is I just want to go through. So you see at the bottom in this hashia, it's also got over here, it says ملحوظة يقدر في زماننا وزن 200 dirham. In our times, 200 dirhams is measured as 612.35. Yeah, 612. Yeah, I might have got it wrong. 613. 612 is, I think, is correct. جراما من في الفضة 612.35. ووزنه 20 مثقالا, and wazn of 20 mithqals is equal to 87.479. Yeah, I said 45, so this might be a slight fluctuation in the exact amount. Jiraman. So there used to be a website, I don't know if it still exists now, called eNisab. Does it still exist? Let me check. So eNisab actually had a lot of the values. eNisab, I think they're probably taking it down or something. Yeah, maybe taken down, but it used to exist before, and that was a good website to see the different values of gold and silver in today's days according to contemporary scholars. So one of the opinions is the one that I mentioned to you, 87.479. 4.5, yeah, and here he's mentioned 87.47, and that one's mentioned. Is this Abu Hanifa's opinion for gold alone to take the value and not weight? So then are we taking the opinions if Sahibain instead by taking? Is this Abu Hanifa's opinion for gold alone to take the value and not weight? So then are we taking the opinions of Sahibain instead by taking weight? I don't understand. Okay, anyway, so if you can just clarify that question. All right, so I just want to read to you some things from Binaya and from Bahr Raik. Yeah, so some points from there. So in Binaya, he mentions, okay, where is this masala? Okay, so in Binaya, okay, so he says, الضم بالإزاء قال مالك أحمد إنه به قال أحمد ضم ما يكون إذا كمل النصاب من أحدهما إذا كان أحد. Okay, so he says إذا كان, so this is something that I've explained before anyway. He says إذا كان أحدهما ثلث النصاب, when one of the two metals is 2/3 of the nisab, فلا بد أن يكون آخر, the other one has to be 1/3 of its nisab, right? So 2/3 plus 1/3, yeah. وكذلك النصف وغير, in other words, that's how it should work. ولو كانت 10 دنانير و100 درهم, if on one side there was 10 gold coins and on the other side there was 100 silver coins, وقيمة الدنانير, but the gold coins was وقيمة الدنانير ما يجب الضم بالاتفاق. Okay, so and the value of the dinars was equal to 100 silver coins, then everyone agrees that you'd have to add them together, because according to Sahibain is ajza, so 10 is 50%, 100 is 50%, 50 plus 50 equals 100%. And according to Imam Hanifa, the value of the dinars, if it's equal or greater to the 100, then obviously qima wise they both put together. على الاختلاف التخريج عنده باعتبار القيمة وعندهما باعتبار الأجزاء. ولو كانت 100 درهم, however, if it was 100 dirhams, just the one that we did in the book, وخمسة دنانير, and there was 5 dinars, its value was 50 only, whose value was 50 actually, right? So it's not the book one. لا يضم بالاتفاق, everyone agrees you don't add them together, because if you got 100 dirhams, that's 50%, and if you got 5 gold coins, that's a quarter, 25%. So 50%, 25% equals 75%. So Sahibain say no zakat. And according to Abu Hanifa, if the 5 gold coins is equal to 50 silver coins, so 100 silver coins plus 5 silver coins is not equal to 200 silver coins. So no zakat. Yeah, بالاتفاق. كذا في التحفة. ولو كانت 150 درهما. If a person had 150 dirhams, so 150 silver coins, وخمسة دنانير, and 5 gold coins, وقيمة الدنانير لا تساوي 50 درهما, and the gold coins were not equal to 50 silver coins. So you got 150 and the 5 gold coins are not equal to 50 silver coins. Then according to Imam Abu Hanifa, zakat would not be necessary. According to Sahibain, it would be necessary. Okay, so he's just like trying to elaborate more with various scenarios. واختلف المشايخ على قول أبي حنيفة. So in this case, the mashayikh now differ with regards to what Abu Hanifa would say. I told you, according to Abu Hanifa, it shouldn't be the case. That's one qawl. But there's also another qawl from the mashayikh. قال بعضهم لا تجب عنده, that if you had these 150 silver coins and 5 gold coins that's worth less than 50 silver coins, then there's no zakat, because if you add them together, the value of both do not equal the nisab of silver. لأن الضم عنده باعتبار القيمة وبالضم الأقل الأكثر لأن الأقل تابع للأكثر فلا يكمل النصاب. Yeah, so the أقل is tabi of the أكثر, so that you can't add them together. However, قال الفقيه أبو جعفر, he says يجب على قوله وهو الصحيح, and this is, he says he still has to give it. وهو الصحيح and this is the stronger position, أن يضم الأكثر إلى الأقل. So what you do is you add the أكثر to the أقل over here, right? So the أكثر to the أقل over here. عنده بالأجزاء تضم وأقل كذا في المختلفات, right? So in other words, what you're going to do is the 200 silver coins that you have, you're going to work out the value of the 5. So let's say, for example, like the 5 gold coins is equal to, I don't know, how much is it equal to? 5 gold coins is equal to 40 silver coins, let's say, 40 silver coins. So if 5 gold coins equals 40 silver coins, then how much is 150 going to equal? Or let's just say 5 gold coins equals, just say it equals 50. So 150 silver coins is going to equal 15 gold coins. So therefore 5 gold coins on one side and 15 gold coins on the other side, 5 plus 15 equals 20. So his argument basically is that what you're going to do is you're going to look at the value on each side. If it works out for one nisab, then fine. If it doesn't work out for that nisab, you shift to the other nisab. Okay, then he says, وَذَكَرْ الْبَزْدَوِي تَضَمُّ بِالْقِيمَةِ وَبِالْأَجْزَاءِ عِنْدَهُ. Now, Bazdawi says, you combine the two in accordance with qima and also with ajza. Meaning, if you can add qima, you add qima. If qima is not going to work, then you can use ajza. Right? This is, he says, Abu Hanifa would say this. وَعِنْدَهُمَا بِالْأَجْزَاءِ فَقَط. وفي الإسبيجاب وغيره معنى الضم بالأجزاء, and what is meant by ضم الأجزاء أن يكون من كل واحد منهما نصف نصاب من غير نظر إلى قيمتها. Yeah, so Isbijabi says that when we say you add the ajza, you're simply looking at half and half, 50-50. أو من أحدهما نصف وربع. So in other words, 50-50 or أحدهما نصف وربع ومن الآخر ربع. Yeah, so one's got half and a quarter, and the other one's got a quarter. Yeah, so half and a quarter. Quarter plus a quarter equals half. And, so it's basically 75% plus 25%. أو من أحدهما نصف وربع وثمن. And so he's saying what we just said, but elaborating more. وفي المحيط لو زاد على النصابين أقل من 40 درهما. Then he goes on, right? So, you can have a look at that. All right, so that's Binaya. And then I just want to mention to you guys from Bahar. So Bahar says, okay. تضم قيمة العروض، أما الأول فإن الوجوب لكل باعتبار التجارة بها ظهر قيمة الإعداد، أما الثاني في المجال حيث الثمانية، ومن هذا الوجه صار سببا وضم إحدى النقدين الآخر قيمة المذهب عندهما الضم بالأجزاء، وهو رواية عنه حتى إن من كان له 100 درهم و5 مثاقيل ذهب تبلغ قيمتها 100 درهم فعليه زكاة عنده خلافا لهما، هما يقولان المعتبر. There's a اعتراض, there's a I just want to find this اعتراض that's raised. Okay, yeah, Zayla'i. Okay, this is the interesting one. Imam Zayla'i. Okay. So anyway, so in Muhit, لو كان له 100 dirham. If a person has 100 dirhams, وعشرة دنانير. So 100 dirhams is 50%. 10 دنانير is 50% of the nisab. However, the 10 دنانير قيمتها أقل من 100. However, the 10 دنانير, the 10 dinars, is worth less than 100. Like, let's say it's worth 99 silver coins. So you got 100 silver coins plus 99 equals 199, which is less than nisab. Yeah. So tajib zakat indahuma, according to them, it'll be necessary. But according to Abu Hanifa, will it be necessary? So there's those two qawls that we mentioned from Binaya. Yeah. One is that it won't be necessary because the qimas haven't worked out to nisab. وَالصَّحِيحُ الْوُجُوبِ. However, the sahih position is the wujub, لأنه إن لم يمكن تكميل النصاب بالدراهم باعتبار قيمة الدنانير. Because if it's not possible to work out the values with regards to qima, أمكن تكميل النصاب بالدنانير باعتبار قيمة الدراهم. You can do it the other way around, like I told you. Yeah, so you work it out in accordance with, you convert the silver into gold, and then you add the gold to the gold, right? So like we said, if 10 gold coins equals 99 silver coins, then 100 silver coins has to equal more than 10 gold coins. So 10 gold coins plus 10 gold coins is equal to the gold nisab. فتكمل احتياطا لإيجاب الزكاة. So he says, بهذا ظهر بحث الزيلعي منقولا. So from this, it's become clear. So Imam Zayla'i. So I didn't get time to actually go through Zayla'i in Tibyan al-Haqaiq and bring his statement. So, but that's something you guys can do. وضعف كلام المصنف الكافي. And Zayla'i has actually claimed that Kafi, Imam Nasafi's position is actually a weak position. قال إن القيمة لا تعتبر عند تكامل الأجزاء عنده كمئة. In other words, Kafi claims, Sahib Kafi, he claims that according to Imam Hanifa, you can complement, the two nisabs can be complemented in value, in percentage wise, right? So he's saying that's a weak position. Imam Hanifa doesn't say that. أن إيجاب الزكاة ظنا منه, but thinking, so this guy thinks أن إيجاب الزكاة في هذه المسألة على الصحيح لتكامل الأجزاء, meaning this particular masala that we're talking about, the 10 gold coins versus 100 silver coins, and the 10 gold coins are only worth 99. He's saying, Sahib al-Kafi is saying, the reason why the Sahih opinion is that Abu Hanifa says you have to give zakat, not because of how we worked it out, but he says because its amount. So 100 is 50%, 10 is 50%, 50 plus 50, like the Sahibain say. It's kind of that لا باعتبار القيمة وليس كما ظن. And Sahib al-Zayla'i says no, this is wrong. بل الإيجاب, the إيجاب is still according to قيمة كما أفاده تعليل المحيط, just like in Muhiti was mentioned. Yeah, because what we've done is we've taken the silver and we've converted that into gold value, and we've added the gold to the gold. وليس كما ظن بل الإيجاب باعتبار القيمة كما أفاده تعليل المحيط فإن حاصله اعتبار القيمة من جهة كل من النقدين لا من جهة أحدهما. So you can read that yourself, and I thought I just mentioned that to you just to show there are some Hanafis who assumed that the Abu Hanifa considers takamul ajza as well, right? And there is a riwayah that's been reported from him that he considers takamul ajza, and Kafi has assumed this over here. Okay. لزوم السبعة باعتبار وفي المعراج لو كان له 150 درهم وخمس دنانير وقيمة دنانير لا تساوي 50 وقد جاء فتجب عليه قوله صحيح. Okay, so that's one thing to mention. And then in the Hashia of Bahr, which is called Minhatul Khaliq by Ibn Abidin, right, he just mentions a little point here. He says okay, he says afada, so he says hatta inna man kan lahu 100 dirham. He says afada anna, so this sentence it implies anna wujub ad-dammi, obligation of combining the two metals together, idha lam yakun kullu wahid minhuma nisaban, when both of the metals haven't reached nisab, bi an kana aqall fa amma idha kana kullu wahid minhuma nisaban, as for if both of them have reached nisab, like gold is, you got more than 20 coins of gold and more than 200 silver, walam yakun zaidan alayhi, and it's not more than that, la yajibu dam, over there you don't do dam. So if you have perfect 20 gold coins, 200 silver coins, you don't add them together. But what if you have, and I didn't mention this scenario, what if you've got 25, or let's say you got, 22 gold coins and you've got 210 silver coins. So do you have to add that 10 to the 2 gold coins? Do you have to work out and add those extra? So the 200, obviously you're going to give zakat of that 200, which is 5 coins, and the 10 gold coins you're going to give half a dinar mithqal. But do you have to add the excess or not? So he says وَلَمْ يَكُنْ زَائِدًا عَلَيْهِ لَا يَجِبُ الضَّمْ. So he says you don't combine the two. حتى يؤدي كله من الذهب والفضة فلا بأس به. So much so, even if you were to give all the zakat from the gold or the silver, that's still okay. ولكن يجب أن يكون التقويم بما هو أنفع للفقراء. However, you're going to look at whatever is going to be beneficial for the fuqara. وإلا فيؤدي من كل واحد منهما ربع أشره. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to give 2.5% of the gold, or you're going to give 2.5% of the silver. Okay. All right. ربع أشر فإن كان على كل واحد منهما نصابين زيادة. This is the one I was talking about. 210 silver coins and 22 gold coins. So you got 2 over here extra, 10 over here extra. فعندهما لا يجب ضم إحدى الزيادتين إلى الأخرى. According to Sahibain, you don't have to add the ziyada onto each other. لأنهما يوجبان الزكاة في الكسور بحسابها. Yeah, so according to them, because remember them, they say once you've hit your nisab, anything above that, you have to give 2.5% of it according to its value. Yeah. So they say you don't add them together anymore now. So if you got 210, you're going to give the zakat of 2.5% of 210. Right? لا يجب الضم إحدى الزيادتين إلى الأخرى لأنهما يوجبان الزكاة في كسور. They consider the obligation of zakat in the extra above the nisab. وأما عنده فينتظر إن بلغت زيادة منهما 4 مثاقيل و40 درهم فكذلك وإلا يجب الضم. So he says, if the extra amount reaches the amounts that he mentioned previously in other lessons we mentioned, yeah, so gold has to reach 4 coins and silver has to reach 40 coins, you give zakat. Otherwise, if it's less than 40, if it's less than 4, then you have to add them together. You got to do the same dom concept over there. Yeah. ولا يجب الضم إحدى الزيادتين الأخرى لتتم 4 مثاقيل و40 درهم لأن الزكاة لا تجب عنده. And then he just goes on. Yeah. So I think that's an important point also to understand, that what they're doing over here is they're doing takhrij of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah's qawl and the Sahibain's qawl to try and understand how would we work out beyond the nisab. Okay. There was also a section I wanted to read from Radd al-Muhtar, but you can check that out yourself. Yeah, so in Radd al-Muhtar, they've got a few more scenarios that he brings up about the combination one. Yeah, and this kafi statement. Yeah, okay. One of the things that he does mention, which I'm not going to go into detail, but you guys can look this up yourself, is the idea of, you're looking at the quality, yeah, the quality of the, so remember I told you, in the Babu Sarf, Kitabu Sarf, why is that over there, you consider the 2 genuses as separate genuses? And likewise, over there, Jawda is not considered, meaning in the chapter of Sarf, quality of gold is not looked at. Meaning, if you're selling gold for gold, whether one side is 24 karat gold and the other side is 14 karat gold, you still are only allowed to sell it in equal quantities, equal measurements, right? You can't sell it more. You can't say, because the gold is 24 carats, I can give less and get more of the other. No, you can't do that. Okay, so he's saying that this is in Radd al-Muhtar. إن عدم اعتبار الجودة إنما هو عند المقابلة بالجنس. Yeah, so he says you only consider Jawda. You don't consider Jawda, meaning you don't consider quality of the gold when you're selling gold for gold, when it's in exchange for gold for gold. أما عند المقابلة بخلافه, as for when you're selling it for opposite, he says then تعتبر اتفاقا. Everyone says that you consider the Jawda over there. Okay, so I just thought I'd mention that point to you. But there are some other good points in Radd al-Muhtar that you might want to have a little look at yourself. Okay, so we'll just summarize this now, and then if you have any questions, we'll answer those. Does Abu Hanifa hold the opinion that to pay zakat on gold, we consider its value and not weight? No. So if it's gold on its own, like I said, if you have gold on its own, you do it according to weight. Yeah, so it's the weight that you have. You got to give it on that. And if it's silver on its own, right, it's only silver. The only time you combine the two, yeah, according to values, is when the 2 nisabs don't meet. Right, 2 nisabs. Now, this is talking about value of the opposite metal, okay? Now, if you're using the value of cash, that's different now. They're not talking about cash. So, for instance, like cash is it's like a third entity now. So, nowadays, when we work out our zakat of gold and silver, let's say a woman has jewelry of zakat and gold and silver, she works out the value of gold and the value of silver according to pounds, which is a separate, it's a separate currency. That's okay. Yeah, so combining the two with regards to that, that's okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's a separate issue, but we're not talking about that. Okay, anyway, let's just summarize today's lesson then. So today we talked about the concept of combining gold and silver together. So we said Imam Hanifa rahimahullah, he says you combine when the 2 nisabs don't meet, they don't reach, with regards to value. And according to Sahibain, they say no, ajza. And one riwayah of Abu Hanifa is that you also can look at the ajza as well. And this is the one that we were discussing earlier, kafi. And the argument that is used is basically that Abu Hanifa or Sahibain's argument is that we never consider qima when it comes to value of gold and silver in zakat. So why should we consider it over here? And Imam Hanifa say no. The reason why we considered the combination of gold and silver is because of mujanasa, because these genuses are one in the sense they both share the common denominator, which is value. And that's why we're combining the two together. And that's the only way we can get an accurate combination. Okay, we'll stop there. Any questions? No? Okay, guys. Take care, inshallah. See you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum.